Hi, and welcome to Southern Summers and Northern Winters. Hi, Mark.
Hey, Anders. How are you this week?
I'm good. Generally, I'm good. But the way the world is, developing at the moment in terms of politics and international relations and stuff like that, it's just a little overwhelming. Maybe because my native Denmark. I don't know how much coverage of this you have in Australia, but my native Denmark is also Greenland, and the new administration in the U.S. they want to acquire.
They want to buy Greenland, don't they?
They want to buy Greenland as a piece of real estate, more or less.
As a piece of the Trump puzzle.
Yes, exactly. Which is, they are serious. They mean business. Obviously, they do. But the thing is, really, since 1951, the Americans have had permission to do whatever they want on Greenland because we, in NATO, as Denmark is a part of NATO, I think Australia is a part of NATO as well, aren't you?
No.
No.
We've got our own alliance with America and Great Britain called AUKUS, Australia, US, UK, because they're about to sell us some nuclear submarines or some jargon like that to help protect the Pacific from the big bad enemy, China. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, anyways, we have this NATO alliance, and we're. So the Americans, they've pretty much since the 50s they've had permission to do what they want, and they can still do that. They could even they could build a military base in any city in Greenland.
Would there be a monetary transaction to buy this?
No.
No.
Well, the thing is, Greenland is not for sale. I mean, Greenland belongs to the Greenlanders, the people living there. We have an alliance going 800 years back in time. So it's a bit like Commonwealth, where the Queen or now the King is the head of state. So is our king is the head of state of Greenland. But they are more or less independent. We pay from Denmark. The Greenlanders can enjoy like a welfare state. They can, they have free schools, free healthcare, stuff like that, which they wouldn't be able to have.
Wouldn't get. None of that's free in America, is it?
No. So it's just a little sad, and now they're talking about because obviously Trump means business, so now they're imposing these customs fee, tax on import taxes on.
But that only hurts Americans as much as it hurts anyone else. So
the thing is, short term, it will be bad for Europe as well, obviously, because we have a lot of interest in exporting to the Americans. But in the long term, the only losers will be the Americans, because everything will get more expensive. And I even think Trump, when campaigning on lower prices for the average consumers. And
what did he say today? He said there might be a bit of short-term pain for long-term gain, I think, for Americans. He's got to spin it somehow. I think, luckily, Australia's not in the firing line because we have a massive trade surplus with America. We buy way more off them than what they buy off us. So, so that's what our foreign minister said on the news today anyway. She said, we're out of the firing line because, it would be detrimental for them to put a tariff on us when they send way more stuff our way than we send their way. So,
he was saying yesterday, the Europeans, they don't buy anything from the Americans. Well, we do. I mean, it depends. It really depends on how you see things. In many ways, we do import a lot, particularly also. online services. I mean, a lot of most of the tech companies that I have subscriptions, streaming,
American.
everything. It's all American. I mean,
Yeah.
I put a lot of my disposal income into
American companies.
Yeah. So
So do I.
Yeah.
So do you have do you subscribe to like Netflix?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I was just.
And so, what's Netflix cost in Germany? Do you know? Like,
It's funny
month?
you should ask, because they just this morning they just sent me a price increase email.
yeah, as they would.
Yeah, so now we're up at around 23 euros. I think it's $25, and yeah, $25.
So is that for, I don't know. In Australia, they have different, levels where you can have more TVs and you can have, in 4K or non 4K.
Yeah.
Whatever you want. I think I've just got the basic package, which is like, I don't think I've got the 4K version, and I think it's like $18.99 Australian, so maybe €9 or €10.
Yeah.
But then I also have Disney, and it's like 17. It's the same price. It's like $17.99 as well. But I'm going to get that cut off because I don't watch it. So
okay.
And then I have Amazon Prime, because Amazon Prime is the most valuable one, because you get your free free delivery with Amazon. And free Kindle books and free music and free movies and and all that. And this is only like $8.99. But I guess if you're the richest man in the world, you can afford to only charge $8.99, can't you, and get away with it?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, we have all of these, and here in Germany, I mean, Amazon Prime is a no-brainer. I think we pay an annual fee, not monthly. We pay annual. I think it's €75 a year.
Yeah,
and we literally, what do we have? 2 or 3 deliveries a week from Amazon. Even just last week, I just ordered some batteries, small AAA batteries, and some lithium, small flat ones. So they just came in an envelope. But still,
and they're so fast. Like Amazon, the delivery is amazing. Like I can order stuff even say off Amazon America or Amazon, any international. And a lot of times I could get that quicker than I could get something from Australia sometimes. Like,
so you have Amazon warehouses in Australia?
Yes, we do in Australia. So there's a .com.au Amazon version where you can buy things, certainly in Australia. Sometimes I get some stuff overseas if it's cheap and the dollar's favourable, which it's not quite favourable at the moment, but that's a whole different story. So we definitely do. They started warehousing, I think, in Australia maybe 4 or 5 years ago when .com.au came in. So it's. I don't actually think that there's a. I don't know if it's huge in Australia like it is everywhere else. I don't know a lot of people that buy stuff off Amazon. So in Australia, but I do, because I was a long time buyer when they were in America, because I used to buy a lot of CDs and Blu-ray DVDs and stuff like that that were available in America, because you get like special editions and stuff.
Yeah,
back in them days, but yeah, I guess it's not quite to the stage, like we don't have food and stuff like that like you can get, I guess, in America. I don't know if they deliver food and stuff in.
Yeah, they do in Germany as well.
Yeah,
you can actually. I mean, we have several warehouses even here in Munich, in the greater Munich area. We have several warehouses, and they're huge. What I really dislike, I must say, because we do need to think about, the environment and stuff. So when I buy something in one order, I can order 2 types of batteries, for instance, and they may come in 2 separate deliveries, and that's just they really should. But I guess it's too complicated from a logistical point of view to make sure
there's someone picking them orders together, wouldn't they, instead of having a robot maybe pluck it off a shelf and whack it in a box or something like that.
Yeah, and even if they come from two different warehouses here in Munich, I mean, so and I guess they have so many deliveries. They even have their own vans now driving around here in Germany. So, but if it comes from a warehouse with from a greater distance, then they will simply DHL it. And I guess they pay nothing for all these deliveries with their logistical partners. They just have
I find that like in like you're talking about the boxes in Australia, I'll order something small and it'll turn up in this huge box like full of bubble bits and things like that. I'm like, man, this is only small and you sent me a box like 5 times the size of it. I can only hope they're recycling them boxes, but I doubt
it. No, that's sometimes from a sustainability point of view, it's really, I'm sometimes struggling, with hitting that purchase button and say okay, order now, and then it'll be here tomorrow at noon. Sometimes I think, can I wait? But sometimes I could wait, but then I know, it doesn't really matter because it may not even come with the same delivery. So
no, that's it. We love the convenience, don't we?
It is, and now, I mean, really, if again back to the America tax thing. I mean, Amazon is probably the place where I order the most. So I would say, I'm one of those who where the balance should be okay and certainly in a US favor because we order so much.
Well, that's what you would think, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just, I guess his administration is catering to the domestic base, the MAGA fans back home in United States, and they have no clue. How could they? Many of these people, no offense, but international savvy is not really there.
No, they got no idea sometimes, have they?
And they can be, they are good people. It's not like that. It's just, they don't know any better. And it's just,
for sure.
Yeah. So it's just, the world is much more nuanced than what you can put into a 30-second clickbait online clip or some snippet on CNN or whatever I mean, it's much more complicated and nuanced than that. But I guess this is the way we're headed. I mean, we have an election here in Germany as well in 2.5 weeks, and it's not going in the right direction really at the moment. It's closed borders, everyone looking out for themselves. You and I grew up in a world where, I mean, I could go across Europe for months without even bringing my passport. I didn't need any papers. But that's different now, isn't it?
It is. This is the world we're heading into, I think, at the moment for a period of time of protectionism, I guess, or austerity, I guess, for
it's sad.
Every country.
You would think that we should know better. I mean, I was just in a discussion yesterday with someone and said, all the things that since the Second World War, that all these clever people they made a consensus that we should avoid war. We should really we should have alliances, trade, do international trade and all that, and we sort of subscribe to that idea for decades, that as long as we're trading with one another, we're buying stuff from one another, we all have an interest in not going to war. But then every once in a while comes a tyrant who could not get a date in high school, and then they wanna just put their anger on anyone they meet. And
I think as much of it is to do historically with transition to technology, I guess, and lack of jobs.
Yeah.
And this is probably where all this is deeply rooted in the fact that, if there's no jobs, then, you've got to have someone to blame and possibly
exactly
immigrants and illegal immigrants, or even refugees, who are coming to countries and maybe illegally filling positions. I think that's one of the big ones in America, isn't it? That's what they go on about.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. Yeah,
and things like that. And look, I'm not a beef. I'm not against refugees. I'm not against countries taking refugees in, but I think you've got to do it right. Like a lot of countries, Australia doesn't do it right either. Like we bring in these people, and I'm not being racist there. These people could be any people. I'm not talking about any specific group there. And then what you do is you just lump them all in one area, and you don't give them any training, and you don't try and find them jobs, and you leave them, and that breeds discontent, and that breeds possibly terrorism and different things like that, because you haven't tried to integrate them properly into society. You think that by bringing them to your country is giving them a better life, but if they've got no job, they've got no house, haven't got a decent lifestyle, well, then is it really any better for them than where they've come from? And that breeds anger, I think.
The lack of hope and perspective will tear down any man. I mean,
definitely.
It's the same thing for the same reason we have refugees. I mean, in some cultures, they the firstborn son, kind of inherits everything, and that's the one person that everyone in the family is, putting their hopes on. And if you're like the thirdborn or fifthborn son in a family, you have, in many countries, you don't have any perspective, and then obviously you start looking for your luck and perspective elsewhere. So you travel abroad, and but you're absolutely right. In Germany, I would say this. I mean, if it wasn't for refugees and people coming from abroad, we would have an issue with many healthcare jobs, for instance, in retirement homes, and
Definitely.
in the daycare, in the care of our elderly, even in many logistical jobs, in restaurant business, hotel business.
Yeah, definitely.
We wouldn't be able to function as a society.
Well, this is what I often say about Australia. These people come and do jobs that, as Australians, we don't want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we don't want to pick vegetables and and farm and
exactly.
Do stuff like that in the heat, and we don't want to be cleaners, and
we're too comfortable for it. It's a Western world syndrome. We're lazy,
and someone's got to do it. So so that's what I think.
We're lazy, and we're overpaid.
Definitely,
and we have we're used to a certain standard of living that it costs money, and we get angry and pissed off if we can't go on 3 holidays a year, and all these things. It's really just luxury problems that if we would put our act together, we could do these jobs ourselves, and then we could have like an argument about not having too many foreigners. But as it is now, I always say, these foreigners, they're doing the jobs that we don't want to do. So what are we complaining about? I mean, really?
Well, most definitely. Like, we have a visa system for travellers. I think got to be maybe under 35. I think standard age, and you can get like a 1 year visa in Australia. But if you go and do, I think it's 90 days on a farm or in agricultural area or something like that, they'll extend your visa for 2 years.
Wow!
Yeah. So you've got to go and do farm work, basically, like picking vegetables or grapes or apples, or working in childcare or something like this. There's a certain specific, but most people are always complaining about the farm work side of it that people have to go and do, only because it's also opened for corruption as well. Like, you often hear stories about foreigners going to do this and then getting ripped off and not paid properly, and
exploited by the farmer.
It comes down to the person saying, well, do you want your pay, or do you want your 90 day visa, and things like this. I mean, the government are trying to crack down on it now, but there was a big hoo-ha about it a few years ago, how they were getting mistreated doing this farm work and stuff.
I heard a story some years ago. I think it was when we were traveling in Australia, so that's long ago now, but that you actually had on some farms you had food rotting on or crops rotting on trees and
Yeah,
because no one they couldn't be picked. They had no one to do it. Yeah, that just makes me sad. I mean, we have a food crisis on the planet, and then elsewhere on the planet you have you cannot pick it. What
every year? It was happening last year. I don't know whether it was bananas last year or they had a glut of bananas or avocados or something, and they just couldn't pick them, so just plow them back into the ground and
yeah,
and go again basically for the next season.
Well, it doesn't make any sense, and so I always say, generally, it really doesn't matter which country you get the politicians you elect. So I always say, if we want smarter politicians, we should have make it interesting for smart people to go into politics, and then make sure we go voting for them on election day.
I don't know if they have any laws in your country, or they don't really in our country, but what I find is the biggest problem with politicians is there's too many career politicians now that want to stay in there from the start to the end, and it's not in their best interests to bring in different laws sometimes and things like that. They want to stay cushy in their job so they get their their big pension and their free travel entitlements and stuff like that when they finish. I think that no one should be able to stay in politics longer than 10 years because that should turn over fresh ideas.
Yes, exactly.
People and bringing new people in. But these days they just stay. If they don't get elected, they just go to the opposition and wait and see if they can get re-elected. And
exactly.
And there's many people that just spend their whole life in politics, and
that's exactly right.
Looking after the policies that will then look after them, not look after the people, and that's
exactly. And many of the issues we have in the world today, they cannot be solved within an election period. So the politicians have no interest in solving, for instance, let's say just climate or adaptation to new technology or whatever, because it's way beyond their election period, and they're not. They only they care for the next 4 to 5 years, depending on how long an election period is in your country. And it's just sometimes it's just the political systems that we have. It's just and I agree with you. It's more than 10 years. That's really time to move on. Time to move on.
Definitely go and get out of the private sector and
So no, it's just that we need to step up and make sure that the world comes in a better state than it currently is, and nobody knows what's going to happen. For instance, with the United States in the next 4 years, it certainly looks very overheated at the moment. I'm sure it will sort of settle, once he's been in office for a while. For the moment, I can only chat and talk to my American friends, and because all of those that I know personally, they just look like one big excuse, and we're really sorry for what kind of reputation we have at the moment. Well, it's you and I are good friends, so don't worry about it. But it's
look, it's a democracy, and the amount of people voted for Trump. That's just way the world goes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
You can't. Speaking of voting, is voting compulsory in Germany? Do you have to vote?
No, you don't. I think you have a moral obligation to do so, but no, you're not. You're not forced. They can't enforce anything on you if you don't vote.
You have a legal obligation in Australia to vote. It is
a criminal
offence. Yeah, it's a criminal offence not to vote. You have to go into a voting booth and you have to get your name ticked off the roster or ticked off the electoral roll, as it's called.
To
show that you have voted. If you don't, the penalty's not much. I think it's like $25 or $50 or something like that if you don't vote. But legally you're obliged to. Anyone over 18 is obliged to go and cast a vote.
I think I don't know. It's I kind of like the idea. It would be a little harsh, but Yeah, why not? I mean, I certainly believe you have a moral obligation to vote, and I always, I will always go voting.
So do you vote in a German election as well as
No, that's the
the
no. I can't because I'm a Danish citizen, and I
Danish
would have
citizen?
to
Yeah.
I would have to apply for a German citizenship.
Yeah.
The thing is, this is just an internal EU thing.
Yeah.
They really should make it like where you pay your taxes, you should also
Yeah.
have be able to vote.
Vote.
Geography should matter, not just your citizenship. But it's an internal EU thing, and I kind of think some of the politicians they don't want to change this because this is just it works for them. But yeah, I can't even vote in Denmark as well because I don't live there.
Okay, so you can't go to. Well, you don't live in the capital, so you can't really go to an embassy, can you? I know Australians can go to an embassy overseas, but I guess you've got to be. For you, it's not worth going to Berlin to vote. You might as well go to Denmark and vote if you're going to go to.
Yeah, but I can't.
Go to Berlin.
When I've lived abroad for 2 years or more, I don't have a vote in Denmark anymore.
Okay.
So
Australians are still meant to, but we're meant to go to an overseas to an embassy overseas and cast our vote at the embassy if we're traveling. So the only time I never voted was in 2019 when we were away, and I actually wanted to. I was in Laos, and I wanted to go to the embassy and vote, but you actually have to. It was difficult, so I don't think they really want you to, even though they say it's compulsory. You had to fill in a form and fax it to the electoral office in Australia to say that you were going to vote somewhere else, and I had no fax machine and no printer and things like that, so I didn't bother. And they fined me and Rebecca, and we weren't home, but I got my sister to send them a letter and say that we were out of the country for 12 months, and that was never heard from them again.
Okay.
So yeah. So in that regard, do you guys also vote online, or do you have to go and physically vote?
We can do both. Well, not online. We can mail, a letter.
Yeah, mail.
But not online. That's just not accepted, particularly in Germany. They're technically hesitant, as we've often talked about. So I don't think
might be a conspiracy.
That won't come for the next 50 years. I don't think so. Denmark, maybe.
I know some countries do it. Some countries do it. Estonia was an early taker of the online voting. I don't see why we can't do it. It would be a lot easier. I mean, we're a world that uses computers every day to do everything. If we trust the computer with our banking and things like that and our money, why are we not trusting them with a vote?
It's a good argument. It's a really good argument. I don't know. It's for Germany, I can certainly say they are not ready for that. Absolutely not. In Denmark, you go as well. There's also some kind of, I don't know. There's something about going to the election station, the polling station, and entering the booth, and I think it's a ritual, and I think it makes it more important to me.
Yes.
There's something about it, the whole is ceremonial, more or less, that you go in there and you make your vote and put it in the box.
In the box.
I think it's a healthy exercise mentally, because
we do think about it. I guess.
Yeah.
I mean, they make you vote in Australia, but they can't ensure that you're actually voting. Like, you could just go and fold your ballot up and put it in the box with no vote on it, which I have done before, only because there was no one I wanted to vote for. No. So I'm not quite sure where that vote goes for. But yeah, as long as you get your name ticked off, you don't actually vote for anyone. You can just fold the paper up and put it in the box if you want.
When you think about so many countries where you do not have a free election, I think it's in our part of the world where we do have free elections. I think we should never take democracy for certain. I mean, we or for granted. It's just It's just because we're used to it, and so we. I don't think we cherish it as we should. I mean, it's.
I think the government sort of say in Australia, well, if everyone has to vote, then no one can say they didn't have a say. Because everyone's had a chance to have a say. So if you don't vote and then you complain about who's in power and things like that, well, then
exactly.
Have you really got an argument if you didn't take the time to go and put your ballot, in a box and say this is who I want?
That's
to be
exactly
legal,
right.
Whether that works or not for you, but you can't sort of go, well, I don't like those, but you haven't really done anything about it, have you? So
exactly right. I completely agree. I also say to people, if you don't vote, don't complain. I mean, it's just
that's it, isn't it?
So at the moment, Alex, my wife, she obviously is going to vote. So we're discussing a bit of politics at the moment because she basically goes voting for both of us. I can't be sure what she's going to vote, but she's a
right. Yeah.
She's an.
Does she tell you who she votes for, or does she keep that secret afterwards?
Yeah, if I ask her, but sometimes I don't even. Sometimes I don't. It's a personal thing. I mean, she can do whatever she wants.
Yeah.
I would be very surprised if she voted something very radical. She's an informed and a reasonable person. So I think we more or less agree. I can go vote for the EU and the local mayor and stuff. I can vote for that, but I cannot vote for the parliament. So I sometimes go vote as well when there's an EU election.
Yep. Okay.
So no, it's just the general state of the world. I think we should all contribute in whatever way we can to make sure that we have a prosperous and free world, because people like you and I, Mark, we like to travel. We like to, we like to meet people. And here's another thing. People are, when you meet people traveling and you come into their, circles of life when you travel, their local communities, and people are nice. People are kind. They are open to foreigners. They are, I've never seen anything else than kind and open people, hospitable people. So everything we hear in the media and the politicians and stuff, it seems like a different world, different planet, doesn't it?
It does. It does. You're correct. I guess travel opens your mind through other experiences.
It does.
That's what it's all about, listening to what other people from other countries have got to say. Like, for instance, I learned something tonight that, you don't have to vote in Germany, things like that. And this is sort of, a lot of it's trivial knowledge, but it's knowledge you would never get if you weren't within a conversation with someone who lives in a different part of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm not all of a sudden just going to sit there and go, I wonder whether they vote in Germany. But
True.
when you're in conversation about these things, you become inquisitive and you ask questions and you go, okay, so now I know that they don't have to vote in Germany, and that Anders lives in Germany but can't vote in Germany and can't vote in his home country either. So
that's I don't have any democratic rights in some aspects, and that's but
like
that's
someone who lives in passport control at an airport, aren't you? You haven't really got a country. You just sort of
exactly. But speaking of various customs, I mean, you recently posted because you have a lot to do with China at the moment, and I was looking into your social media, and you posted photos from your was it an Airbnb? No, it was privately rented.
It was an apartment. Yeah, it was an apartment that people live in.
And you didn't have an oven in that.
No ovens. And that's not unusual because we went to another apartment where my daughter lives with another family, and they don't have an oven either. Ovens are really not a thing in.
Do they not bake?
No, they do not bake at all. Most of their food is cooked in a wok on a cooktop, and that's how they do it. I guess Well, I'm not even sure. They said they had an air fryer, but they don't often use it. So I think
Yeah.
so. They don't really fry anything per se, like in oil. They might fry wok, with vegetables and stuff like that, toss through a bit of olive oil.
Spring rolls or something
things like
that.
Yeah, and things like that. But they don't really roast anything. They don't bake bread, and they don't, have a roast pork or a roast lamb or a roast beef like we might do in Western countries, or anything like that, or roast potatoes. Like everything that they eat is, tossed greens and rice and Chinese style beef and, prawns and all that sort of stuff that can just be tossed through a wok, basically. So it's not uncommon not to have a stove. I thought it was a little bit strange, but yeah, apparently it's not a thing, but they might have sometimes, I was told. There could be a communal stove in like an apartment building. Like there might be a communal area downstairs where there is a stove sometimes that people can use. So that was what they were telling me, but I'm not quite sure whether that's truth or not.
They have these crackers that they, there's a saying in them, for good luck, you can open these crackers.
Yeah, the fortune cookies.
Fortune cookies, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and I guess they're baked, but I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, bakeries and that, obviously, it's all probably done commercially for bread and things like that, but they don't eat a lot of bread anyway. Like it's very rare that like they don't make sandwiches or things like that. Like that's not really a thing in China to eat bread at all, hardly. So
that's another thing because they eat rice more, with basically anything, don't they? I mean,
rice is a breakfast food. In China. It's not even really a lunch food or a dinner food. They eat it mainly at breakfast time. So at dinner time, a lot of it
is... With what do they eat it for breakfast? With egg or...
egg and things like that. So they sort of do a fried rice. Fried rice is more a breakfast food in China. At night time, a lot of it, like I said, is tossed vegetables, steamed vegetables and things like that they chuck soy sauce and chilies and stuff through like that. And they'll often have, they have like a buffet every night on their table. There might be 6 or 7 or 8 dishes, going on. And that's sort of traditionally tea. There might be a couple of different meats and a couple of different vegetable dishes and things like that. So they often have 5 or 6 dishes going on each night, and they just stick it all in the middle of the table, and you just go and choose from that. So yeah.
So just okay. I guess so. Like the sweet breakfast, like we like, our jams and bread and toast and stuff. They don't have that at all.
No, not really. They sell it, but no one has. From what I could gather, the people that Willow live with anyway, they don't have that sort of breakfast anyway.
No.
But they eat a lot of. I'm just trying to think. Like always on the table, there's like sunflower seeds, and it's all healthy stuff. There's a lot of Chinese look like stick figures.
Yeah.
Like all they eat is really healthy stuff, like seeds and lots of seeds and nuts and and vegetables, broccoli, and and all this sort of stuff like this, like flat out. And they wouldn't, local people, or to a certain, maybe a younger generation, but medium age, would never go to McDonald's or anything like that for a meal, because that's just not, that's
for tourists.
Basically, yeah. So everything's freshly cooked, and a lot of it's soup based as well. So that's why they're all so skinny, and that's why I look like a man mountain when I walk around China. And
yeah, but it's right. In the Western world, we eat white bread and a lot of sweet stuff with artificial flavor. Lots of sugar and fat. Really,
and that's another thing in China. They don't eat a lot of sugar. Like if you buy Western equivalents in China, they taste different because they don't have the same sugar content in them that they do here. Like if you had a Fanta, like I've had it in China, nowhere near as sweet, more like orange juice than it is than it is in the Western world. If you have cake, you have cake, but the cake is not sweet. Like, there's things like so sugar is really doesn't exist in a lot of foods in China where you would find in Western. They still make it, but they just don't have don't have sugar in them.
Well, sugar is used because some like 20, 25 years ago, there was people were scared of fat in their food.
Yeah.
Diet low carb, low fat, and all of these things. Diet whatever. So instead,
fat free but full of sugar.
Exactly, they use sugar instead to enhance the flavor, and since then, it's really just gotten worse. I would say,
most definitely,
because sugar is extremely addictive.
It is,
and
so okay, come. Sorry,
no, I was just reading this weekend that you can actually, and you should every once in a while make a sugar detox. Slowly, ease out of all the sugar intake, and it's hard.
And it's
actually hard. It's hard to avoid.
Yeah,
it's hard to avoid.
Yeah. It's in everything. Literally, you look on the back of everything, and there's sugar in it. It's.
Alex was
really
looking
only
at
water. It's really only water that you can't get sugar in.
Exactly. We wanted to buy some yogurt recently, and Alex was saying, I want to make sure that there's no sugar in it, and it was not possible. She looked at every single, and in Germany we do like our yogurt. We have a huge selection in the supermarkets, and all of them. Even the natural flavored ones with no, like a strawberry or whatever you can get. Just the natural flavored ones, they were full of sugar. Really,
definitely. Because you see a lot in Australia that say no sugar, no extra sugar added, but still there's a lot of sugar even before you want to add natural sugars, I guess, before you even want to add anything to it. So
even some ingredients they will produce sugar if you like fermented
like beer.
Beer.
It's wine, things like that. And you can't get away from it, can you? This is the issue. It's a tricky one, isn't it? Like that.
It is. But it's an interesting topic because we think, for instance, we think that breakfast is a global thing, but it's not. We certainly do not have the same habits in terms of breakfast. That's why you go into a hotel, you have continental breakfast. That's probably
people used to eat like carb heavy breakfast because manual labor was what was happening. And now manual labor's not really happening for a lot of us, let's be honest. So so you don't need to be, carb loading in the morning on your breakfast with sugars and breads and and all this sort of stuff, because you don't need that energy during the day because you're not actually doing anything really, really physical.
No, you're not. No. But it's funny. I do have a thing for the Italian kitchen because to me it's my favorite kitchen, and it's just breakfast in Italy is what they have is a cappuccino and maybe a some sort of pastry, and that's it. Yeah. They don't eat breakfast like continental Europeans. Like here in Germany, we like a sausage roll or a bun with cheese or something like that.
Breads, cheeses,
exactly. Something, or maybe a yogurt. We have these muesli with cereal in it and yogurt and or an egg or something like that. Something like you say.
That sounds healthier than the English breakfast, which is baked beans and eggs and hash browns and and sausages and
lots of fat and salt.
All that sort of yummy stuff, I will say.
It's
definitely indulged in some.
I do like
English
my
breakfast.
I do like my English or Irish breakfast. I do. The Irish breakfast is with a blood sausage,
black pudding.
Black pudding,
I like that too. That's nice. I've had some of that before. I mean, where you are is, when you're in Rome, do as the Romans do.
Exactly.
England, but when you're English do,
But when you're in Rome, you don't get a breakfast. Like you can get your pastry and a cappuccino. And
I wonder where that saying come from. Where does that saying come from? When in Rome, do as the Romans do. What did the Romans do? That we're.
Well, they had.
They're trying to follow. I guess they had an advanced society for that age.
the Roman upper class, they certainly knew how to live, didn't they? Right?
Well, they did. They were in party mode a lot of the time. Weren't they?
Yeah. So no,
Not been a bad thing.
did you know that in Italy you do not order a cappuccino after 10 o'clock in the morning?
Because it's a breakfast drink, is it?
It's a breakfast drink, and if you do so, they will immediately know that you're a tourist.
You're a tourist and charge you more for it.
So the Italians, they a cappuccino or cafe latte or whatever you, it's on any milk drink, anything with milk is
so
up until
espresso after 10 o'clock.
Espresso is some Italians they go
Black.
with espresso black all day. But particularly those with milk is after 10. It's of course you can get it. It's not like that. It's just that they will judge you.
They might look down their nose at you.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a thing.
Oh, I'm sure I've been judged in many countries, so it's not it's not something new. So in Australia at the moment, or in Victoria where we are, we're in the middle of a short heat wave here. It was 39 yesterday. It was 38 today.
Man,
Can be 38. Can be 38 tomorrow. And then it's going to cool down to 28 the next day before it whips back up into the high 30s on the weekend again. So, which is quite strange because far north Queensland just had something like 1,000 mils of rain in the last 24 hours, and there's floods. So it shows the length and breadth of our country. Yeah. So there's flooding in one part of the country, and the other part of the country is dying through a heat wave as I sit here in the shed sweating.
Wow. Is the weather getting more extreme in Australia, or is it just something they say in the media? What's your take on that?
I think I'm going to say that this is probably the hottest summer I reckon we've had in Australia in maybe 10 years or more. I thought the days of prolonged periods of hot weather had gone, but they seem to be back this season, especially. Like, nearly every day's been over 30 or around 30. I would say for the last month or so, or even before that, whereas other years we were getting a lot of days around 20s and not really many days in the 30s or even high 30s. So this year's been a bit of a turnaround in this part of Australia anyway, but they seem to be getting there seems to be a lot of rain up north. So I don't really know. It's really hard to say. I think time sort of dulls your memory on weather perception. As a kid, I always thought it was hot, but then, now I don't think it's been all that hot, but then it's hot again this year. But they are saying it's been last year was the hottest year on record. So,
wow.
Maybe it is.
It's sort of like the same here in Europe, in Central Europe. They say, in the good old days, we used to have white winters, snowy winters.
And now you don't get any snow much, do you?
No, we don't. It's actually, a lot of the glaciers are collapsing and it's really... the weather is certainly changing, and you can believe what you want, whether or not it's man-made. It doesn't really matter. It's time to adapt. We need to adapt to the changes that we are seeing. I mean, for instance, my native Denmark, it's just a lot of coastal line where you used to have like houses and buildings along the coast. You can't do that anymore. You can't get them insured.
No, that's it.
Yeah. So
in case they go underwater, don't they?
And this is new. I mean, within the last couple of years, they start talking about we won't insure new buildings on the coast because of the change.
Insurance is becoming a bit of an issue, I think. Like especially housing insurance and things like that, especially worldwide, because there's so much unpredictable weather and so many claims and catastrophes happening that the price of like household insurance, I think, in general around the world is through the roof, because these insurance companies are paying out, so much. So obviously they then kick it on to you. But insurance companies are, I don't know, they're a bit of a waste too at some stuff. Not a waste, but they're wasteful because I find this in Australia a lot. If it's not your money, you're happy to spend it. So, you can get a rort off the government. Australians are all up for, taking the government for whatever they can and things like this. And then we wonder why we've got high prices.
Yeah.
That's a whole other argument. But so I think maybe November we had a leak in the back of our dishwasher and it went behind our cupboards. So I had to ring the insurance, and so straight away after I made a claim, they stuck the insurance up by $20 a month straight away before they'd even done any work. So it went up, and then I haven't actually had anything done yet because it was coming into Christmas time and the tradespeople were closing down, and and everyone was going to be shut for 2 or 3 weeks. And the cabinet guy. So a guy has to make some cabinets to re-put back in our kitchen. Someone has to come in and put some new vinyl down. Someone has to come in and remove a couple of boards in the floor because we've got wooden floorboards because we live in an old house. So someone's got to do that. So, so a plumber's then got to come in and disconnect it. Electrician's got to come in. So there's all these trades that have got to come in and sort of work, in unison, hopefully, to get this done in a week. But the insurance company sort of billeted out to one building company to oversee, all these other
coordinate the things.
Yeah, they coordinate it. So the coordinator rings the other week and he's like, "Oh, can we come and start next week?" And I'm like, "Well, you probably can, but I don't know, what are we going to do? We can't access the kitchen in our house. So are we meant to stay here, or is the insurance company going to pay for us to move out for a week or something like that?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." So he's runging through the page. He's like, "Okay, so I'll ring the insurance company and we'll work something out about you moving out for a week or so. Why we do this?" Which is what they told us when they first come and assessed it. Because if you can't use your kitchen, there's not really much you can. You can't really do much, can you? You can't cook. You can't get a drink.
All this just because the dishwasher was leaking.
Yeah, it leaked behind the back of the cupboard, so it went under the under the wooden flooring and under the false board that's at the bottom of your cupboards and things like that. So there could be mold or anything going on under there. But yeah, it's an overkill. But I probably would have left it. But Rebecca was like, "Well, you need to ring." And I guess if you don't ring and then something happens 6 months down the line,
the house insurance will. Yeah. Your wife's right.
Well, you rang that away, so we're not going to cover it now because So you've got to really ring. So then the actual insurance company rang me up the other day and they're like, so the building company wants you to move out for a month. I said, "What, a month? Surely it's not going to take that long." And things like this is why we pay so much for insurance. It can't take a month to fix what is in our kitchen. To me, it will take a week at the most just by looking at it. If they've got to replace a couple of boards, all the guy's got to do is replace the carcass, he calls it, of the cupboard. So they'll lift the bench top up because it's all right. And because the kitchen's just slotted in pieces, they'll take the bottom cabinets out and he'll put some new ones in. So that's done for that bit. Then all the guy's got to do is come in, put some lino down, things like this. This shouldn't take 4 weeks. But you go, well, no wonder we're paying so much when, accommodation for 4 weeks, in an Airbnb or something's probably going to cost what the whole frigging repair costs.
Exactly.
And you wonder why insurance policies cost so much. Well, this is why, because, it's just over the top. There's no way we would need to. And I said that to him. He goes, "Do you think you'd need to move out for a month?" And I said, "I don't think so." So he was going back to the building company. This was the insurer to see, to talk to him about it again. So I still haven't heard back. So,
but these building companies, these handymen, we had a plumber last week. To fix our toilet, it was running all the time, and it was just basically just need to be decalcified, and just stuff like that. And there was a dripping faucet in the bathroom as well.
Yep.
So they fixed all that. I got a bill for €700-800. It was just, come on, you were here literally 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
and
how do you justify that?
They did change some things. We did get a new faucet, which was overpriced, beyond belief. Anyway, it was just they were here 30 minutes, and they I think they charged us 2 hours of labor.
Probably the minimum call out or something like that. And
something like that, plus the driving. That's like a fixed fee they have for even starting their
such
cars.
a scam, isn't it? Like, and you wonder why things are so dear and why people, when things are that price, it's friggin' ridiculous. Like,
and as you say, in terms of insurance, because these building companies, they love insurance.
Definitely.
Cases, because that's when they can really
rip the price up.
Yeah. So
then I wonder why I'm all of a sudden, paying, $150 a month for friggin' contents insurance, and $150 a month for bloody house insurance on top of that. Like, so you've got to insure the inside, and I've got to insure the outside, and because I bought a new car, insurance went from like $40 a month to $100 a month for a brand new car, and
which is interesting because a new, I cannot, to a point I can understand that, but a new car shouldn't have any issues either,
No. But they only work on the replacement fee, don't they? They go, well, if he crashes this and writes it off, well, then I've got to hand out $25,000. If he crashes his old $5,000 car, I've only got to hand out $5,000, don't I? Like, so that's where they get you, don't they? In the end, it's listen, that's we sound like whingers. We're here whinging away about everything.
Old grumpy man. Anyway, Mark, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. It's been way over an hour again, and we should. I will. Before we talk the next time, I will get into the statistics because I do think we can start seeing. Hopefully, we have some listeners, Mark.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
We have a few. I saw that the last time I checked, but if you're listening to this podcast, please do make some noise. Drop us a line. Yeah, exactly.
Definitely. Even though we haven't touched a travel discussion tonight at all, but that's all right. We will get back into something about that next one. Oh, we did. We talked about China a little bit.
We did. So, we talked about cultural differances, and this is the whole. This is actually could probably be a side thing on this podcast that we talk about travels. We will get into that in many more episodes. But we should. It's also about what travel brings us, the understanding, international understanding of one another, and
definitely.
Do give us a like, give us a thumbs up, and drop us a line, and
we would appreciate it.
Absolutely. We will. Well, there's not many notes to this episode, I guess, but we will, in the notes of each episode, you will find links to our Instagram, YouTube, and other socials. So, thanks for listening and have a good week.
Thank you. We will talk to you next week for sure.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.